Thank you very much, Josie. I'll go on now to present the results for the corruption barometer. I think it's important to emphasize, first of all, the difference that the corruption perception index and the corruption barometer are two very different indices. Quite often, the public and perhaps the media gets confused between the two. As Josie mentioned, the Corruption Perception Index is an expert survey where we get data from other people's surveys, and they are basically perceptions of business leaders and country experts within and outside Malaysia. So what is a corruption barometer? It is a survey of the general public. It's a survey of ordinary Malaysians as opposed to business leaders and country experts. It measures public perceptions of corruption, personal experiences of bribery, views on the fight against corruption, and whether the public is willing to get involved in the fight against corruption. This is our sampling for Malaysia. I know the media is always interested in this to find out what's behind the surveys. The sample surveys, we try to keep it consistent between the years so that the results we get are comparable. So it's basically about the same 1,000 persons interviewed face to face, not by telephone. It's national coverage. The sampling takes into account the urban and rural people, gender, ages, education level. The field dates for 2001 were slightly later because we didn't want to get started and then have it in the middle of Ramadan and the period after Ramadan. So the field dates were a bit later this year. And we used the same survey firm and same sampling firm as we did last year. These are the key results of the Corruption Barometer 2001. Around 40% perceive that corruption levels have stayed the same about the past 3 years and will remain the same for next 3 years. We were hoping that we will see an improvement, but that's the general perception of the public. Police and political parties are again identified as the most corrupt institutions in Malaysia. Police, unfortunately, are identified as having been bribed the most in the past 12 months. But one thing positive that's come out is that only 1.2% paid bribes in the past 12 months, compared to 9% in 2010. I think that's a very positive indication. 49% believe the government is effective in fighting corruption, and 60% trusted government leaders the most to fight corruption. So these are the basic results as I summarized before. The level of corruption, basically, people think it's stayed the same, and will stay the same in the next 3 years. These are the perceptions of corruption in key Malaysian institutions and sectors. Police and political parties remain at the top. Personal experiences of bribery. These are people who have been surveyed and have paid a bribe. As I mentioned, it's only 1.2% compared to previous years, 9%. The bribes were paid mainly to police, which I don't think many of us are surprised about, and land services. Land services would, in our context, would probably involve the land officers. And the interesting thing about this is that if you look at the slide, there's land services and there's registry and permit services. The registry services apply to things like registration of land transfers. So the land services, to me, in the context that I'm familiar with in conveyancing, is when you apply to the land office for certain consents that are required from the land office. For example, in Malaysia, when it's leasehold land, there's always a requirement that you apply for state consent to transfer property, and I think that's where this comes in. This is the assessment of Malaysia's government's effectiveness in fighting corruption. If you look at the data, the public continues to believe that the Malaysian government is effective in fighting corruption. Slight increase in 49% versus 48%. So at the lower levels, the public thinks that the government is effective. But that's the positive side. I think that the possible downside is if you look at this other data. I think you need to look at the ineffective and extremely ineffective result as well. The ineffective and extremely ineffective percentage has gone up to 25%. This means that the fence sitters, some of the fence sitters have moved over to the other side and starting to think that the government is either ineffective or extremely ineffective. That concludes my presentation on the corruption barometer, the survey of the public, and I'll hand you back to